2 seconds. Oh, no, we're good to go now. All yours.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Hi, I'm Christina Wong, and I am an artist. And today we'll be focusing on endangered sea life in the Bahamas. And so we're specifically painting a turtle, more specific, the loggerhead turtle. So we have numerous turtles that swim and live within our sea. And it's like the loggerhead turtle, like I just said, hawksbill turtle. We have the green turtle. So we have multiple turtles. And then they all help with the ecosystem with the sea life, right? And so the reason why they're endangered and what makes animals endangered is when their habitat, usually they lose their habitat. So it either becomes smaller or there's some pollution or destruction that happened. And so they either have to migrate or they end up just getting smaller and smaller, and then there's less and less of them. So the loggerhead turtle is not the most endangered turtle, but I just thought it was a pretty turtle for us to paint today while we speak about other sea life. And so I want to begin, and I'll just talk about this topic as I'm painting, because this can take a bit of a minute. And so I don't want to lose any time out with you. So I'm just going to grab my pencil. And so this is what we'll be painting today. And I'm just going to sketch out the turtle. Usually I start with my background first. So because I want to get the turtle going and the detail on the turtle really well before we move on to the background. So we'll do the background after the turtle. So we'll just focus on the turtle for now. All right. And so I want to look at the size of my turtle's head. So loggerhead turtles are known because of their large heads, and that's why they're called loggerhead turtles. So I'm going to look at the size of my turtle's head. And I'm going to say that's about 4 inches or so, maybe 3 to 4 inches. All right, so I'm going to find a spot that I want. So if I start at the top here, I'd say I want the bottom of my turtle's head to be about here. Okay, so I'm not all the way to the edge of the canvas, but I'm about
Sorry,
3 or
we just
4
got
inches.
disconnected for a second.
Oh, we did?
Can you go back just like a minute, or maybe you didn't say anything that was that important?
Oh, I don't even know where
But
it
just like,
stopped.
it's fine. I think the internet dropped or something.
Oh,
actually,
okay.
yeah, you haven't actually started, so that's fine. Just continue.
Oh, okay, yeah.
You can hear me clearly, or?
I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me well?
Okay, yeah, I can hear you. Your sound is fine.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good to continue.
Okay. All right. So I was starting with the loggerhead, the head of the loggerhead, which is pretty large. And so I just started making some marks. Not sure if you can see that from there. So maybe I'll just paint, I'll draw with my brush so that you can see it better. Okay. So I started about here, and the end of the head is about here. Okay, so I'm not all the way to the edge of the canvas. Instead, I'm about 3 inches in because I need to have enough space to draw the fin. Okay, so I'm just gonna make that shape of the head. It's pretty round with an eye bulging on the side. Okay, there we go. All right, and so now I'm gonna move over to painting my shell. So my shell is about 3 heads large. 1, 2, 3. So I'm gonna see my head, 1. So 1, I make my first mark. 2, my second mark, and then 3. So my shell should end about here. So now I'm gonna just make that mark that. So if I look at where my head is and the angle of where the shell is, I'm gonna make that same angle. Okay. I'm looking at the angle. I'm going to start about here. So I go up, I give a small little neck, and then I move on. And it kind of shapes down. Okay, so I have the top part of my shell. Okay. And I'm going to make a kind of square shape right here. And I'm going to bring that in. And then the fin, his larger fin is going to be at the front. All right. And his fin actually goes beyond his shell. So I'm just gonna make a point down there. And I'm gonna connect all of this now. So he has his next fin on the next side. And so I'm just gonna take from the bottom of this fin, I'm gonna go up and I'm gonna round it off right here. And then this is where I'm now going to begin my next fin. Okay, so I'm gonna say this is about the same size as the head. So I'm just gonna make a point. So I take the head, I move it down, it's about the same size. I make a round, small round shape. And I wanna just create that fin and then connect that to the body. Okay, so I think I want my shell just to be a little larger. And I'm gonna bring it down some more. And then his back fin. Okay. And so now I'm going to work on the detail of the face, just adding where the eyes should be and where the nose and the mouth should be. So like I said, on the right side, there's his eye kind of bulging on the side.
Can you just tilt the canvas forward just a little, Christina? Like you don't have to do it
Yeah,
permanently, just so people so can see.
that's much better. I can come a little
Great.
closer. Okay.
I mean, make sure you're still comfortable, but I guess
Oh
just
yeah.
like periodically show.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, so this is the progress right now. And I'm just gonna put the next eye. And this is kind of slanting down. Okay, and so the nose would be about here. And then we have the mouth underneath. I have my turtle kind of smiling. All right, and so now, like in our painting here, he's kind of swimming over like a coral reef. So I'm just gonna start it above the fin and then work my way down, just angling it very similarly to the turtle. So this is what we're working with right now. And then we're gonna add a lot of detail as we're painting. So I'm just gonna rinse my brush off and we're gonna start with the shell. And I'm going to take my large brush. So the paint that I'm using, the colors that I'm using is just black, white, I added brown, and this aqua green color here, blue, yellow, and red. And so just mostly primary colors, and we're just gonna mix the colors to create the colors that we're looking for. So we're gonna start with the shell, like I said, and we're going to create like a dark green with hints of red in it to give it more of a brown. Okay, so I'm just gonna take out some yellow, some more red. My blue. Brown. Just gonna put on my next palette. Some white. And I already have black on my palette, so. Okay, so now we're gonna mix that color that I was talking about. And so what I'm gonna use is some brown. I'm going to take some yellow and some blue, some of my dark blue. I'm going to mix those together. Okay, till I get about this color here. And then as we're adding more detail into the shell, we'll just add like some dabs of red and some white to get some texture in there. Okay. All right. Okay, so we're just going to paint the shell. And so sometimes my paint can get a little thick, so I just put a little bit of water in it just to kind of loosen it up. And so you want to paint the whole shell this color. And like I said, as we are adding the detail for the texture, we'll then add more colors, but it'll pretty much just be this as the base of the color. Okay, so I'm gonna mix a little bit more. Brown, blue, and yellow. So we spoke about how animals, sea life can be categorized as endangered because of loss of their habitat. And that happens through pollution in the sea. That happens with selling and poaching. And so how can we help with this is by educating ourselves on sea life and the dangers that we can cause by pollution of sewage, trash in the water. And that's why we should properly dispose of our trash when we're done with the beach, when we're leaving the beach. Because when those things wash up into the water, the sea life can't really distinguish or see what is food from what's not food. And so they end up eating the plastic. And a lot of times our waste that has been there for years end up going into the sea. And then they break down into these like microplastics. And then they start eating the microplastics. And then we eat them. That's how it works. We end up eating them, but not knowing that they actually have microplastics in them. So it's beneficial for them, but it's also beneficial for us because we don't want to be eating plastic, do we? All right, so now that we have the color on there and it's not dry, we don't want it to dry because we're going to layer on top. I'm going to take a medium brush. It's my brush is about like a point. And so I'm just going to take some of my white and I'm going to mix that with a little bit of yellow. And I'm just going to section off areas on the turtle. Okay, so I'm just making some lines. If you've ever seen a turtle, you see these sections on the turtle's shell. I look at them like tiles. And to me, they always look like tiles. Okay, just creating those lines there. Since 2009, it is illegal to eat, buy, or sell turtles. So we have made some advancements on the protection of our sea life. And so we want to make sure that we continue to protect them. Like they have seasons for different sea animals in the Bahamas, like crawfish. There's a season for crawfish, there's a season for Nassau grouper, there's a season for stone crab. And so now we're advocating for a season for conch. Because we want to make sure that in years to come, we are able to still consume these things. But the reason they have seasons is because that's their breeding time when they're able to make, more babies and they all grow and then we all able to eat more of them. But if they don't have time to breed and don't have time to reproduce, then they will become endangered and then we won't have them to consume, or we just won't have them for the whole ecosystem. Okay, so now I created my sections. I think you can see that. I'm going to add some texture by dabbing. So I'm going to take my next brush. So you can use a small brush if you want, whatever brush you feel comfortable using. I'm using this brush to dab. It's a bit of a round, flat brush. And so I'm going to take a little bit of red, okay, with that color I mixed. Just gonna dab it in there a little bit just to darken it. And I'm just gonna put it around the base of the shell. And so now I'm adding texture by dabbing this on. Creating more depth on the turtle, making it look a little bit more realistic. Okay, and I'm gonna do this on the next part of the shell. Just dabbing that on. So it's always good to put your base color down because that way you can build on top of it. And you can build using different colors to create your shadows and your highlights. All right, so I'm just continuing on. And like I say, I'm using it like on the base of each, we're gonna call it tile, on each tile of the shell, okay? And so I'm also doing, can you see that? Yeah, so it's adding a little bit more texture. Just dabbing that there. Okay. So I'm just rinsing my brush off. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of white and with this same color, so you realize I'm playing with the same color that's the base. And I'm just gonna dab a little of it to create just a lighter green color that we have here. And so I'm gonna add it as the highlight. So basically the light will be coming down on the turtle. So we wanna make sure that we show that highlight. And then we're adding more texture. So loggerhead turtles can live up to like 50 years. And so over time, they end up building barnacles and algae on them as they age. All right. Using that same color that I mixed, just getting some more and just spreading that on the top of our turtle's shell. Okay, so you can already see that nice green in behind the little red hues. And now we have the light on the turtle at the top. Okay, so I'm just gonna continue that part along the top part of my turtle's shell. Okay. So right now I've created basically a low light. So I can go back on it with more white to create a highlight now. Just taking that white directly. I didn't blend it with anything. I didn't wash my brush off either because the color is still on the brush and I want it there to keep it kind of blended. But I just put it directly onto the canvas and it's already starting to lighten up. Okay. So turtles are good for multiple reasons in the sea. A known reason would be that they eat like the seagrass and they look at them as like trimmers and they basically spread that seagrass in other places and it grows because like conchs and grunts and crawfish like live amongst the seagrass. And so when they're there to spread that, they're able to then properly mature, because you don't want to get conch when it's premature, because you want to make sure that the conch has like that nice pink lip. That's how you know when the conch is fully matured. Okay, so now that I have my shell how I want it now, I have my highlights, my lowlights, I have my shadows. Those reds act as a nice shadow. We're going to move on to the fins. So both sides, we'll do both sides. And we're basically using a similar color, but we're going to do it a little lighter. So I'm just taking the same color mixture that we made, which was the blue, the yellow, and the brown. Mixing that together. Just gonna take a little dab of white just to kind of lighten it a little bit more. And I'm just gonna apply that mostly at the top part, and we're gonna go into a really nice light beige using brown and white for the bottom of it. So I wanna make sure that I have a good amount, because we need to make sure that we paint both sides. So I'm just gonna make it now, just make most of it now. Taking some white, lighten that up a bit. Okay. And so now we're just gonna paint that. And so like I said, when your paint feels a little too thick, you can just dab a little bit of water in it, and it helps it to go on a little smoother. You don't want to put too much. And it also depends on like the consistency of your paint. Like if you have thick paint, then you might need to water down just a bit. But if your paint is pretty flexible, then you shouldn't have to do that. I have pretty thick paint, so I usually have to kind of water down for certain parts. Unless I want like a nice thick texture of paint on it, then I wouldn't do that. Because it's just the base of it, we just want to make sure that we water it down so it goes on well. Okay, so I'm gonna do the next one. Remember I said we're gonna do like a nice beige color there. Okay, so I'm just gonna rinse my brush off quickly. So acrylic paint dries very swiftly, so I don't want to take too long when I'm trying to blend. So I try to move as quick as possible. There are mediums that you can use to slow down the drying process of acrylic paint. But right now I'm just using acrylic paint by itself. So, all right, so I've made this beige color here, and I'm just gonna apply that at the bottom of the fin. And it's blending with my green, so that meant my green did not dry too fast, which is good. I wanted to blend. Okay, so you can see it's already beginning to blend with that green. Okay, so that's how that's looking right now. So I'm rinsing my brush off again. I'm gonna take my smaller brush, this brush right here. I'm gonna dip into my black. And right above that, I'm gonna add some black just to make sure that we can see the divide between the fin and the shell. I'm just creating the line first, and then I'm just gonna blend it out with my brush. All right, so I have the line. I kind of just blend it out with my brush. To blend, I just kind of keep going back and forth into the next color. I think now we can kind of see a divide between the shell and the fin, and then also the fin is in front of it, so that's why we're using the shadow on top of it, so that you can see that the shell is behind the fin. Just with the canvas, like you have to kind of make sure you put enough paint to cover the whole canvas, making sure you don't have any little white dots. Okay. So now I rinsed off my brush. And I have my tiny, tiny brush now. I don't know if you could see that now. There it is. Okay. So we can make the same beige color again if you run out. I think mine kind of dried out. So I just used brown and white. So we're going to make that again. Some brown, some white. And now we're just going to make the texture that we see here on the fins with these lines. Okay. And so it's just a lot of lines that just create these organic shapes. They're not like any specific shape that you have to make. Some of them are like triangles, some of them are like wonky squares. So I just kind of go with the flow of it. So another sea life that we definitely need to protect is our coral reefs. And there are multiple reasons for that. There are a lot of different species that live within coral reefs, but coral reefs also protect the land from storm surges, like how we have hurricanes here in the Bahamas, and those coral reef barriers help to stop those huge waves from coming into land. And we've seen recently with Hurricane Dorian, the surge and how much destruction it can do. And so there are scientists here in the Bahamas that are trying to rebuild or regrow or grow coral reefs to start the process, because a lot of them have been damaged. And sometimes it's because not just with pollution because of oil spills and the sewage and stuff, but also when we go diving, we end up like people touch them. You're not supposed to touch them. You're not supposed to break them off. People like to have them as souvenirs, but that's not what they're there for. It's good to look at. I mean, take a dive, go and look at it, but do not touch. You know, we need them to protect us from harmful storms. We need them to, they're habitats for a lot of sea life, fish. You also have octopus that like live in there, turtles, they live around there too. Okay, so now I have all of the lines that I want for my turtle. So we're going to move on to the underbelly of the turtle now. And so that is pretty much the same beige mixed with a reddish brown. All right, so I'm rinsing off my brush. So I'm going to use this brush to make that mark. So first I'm going to make the reddish brown. And so I'm just going to use some black and some red. So just taking some black, taking some red. Okay. So I'm mostly going to use that color within this area, and most of the beige will be underneath. Okay. So just within this area that I said, just painting that there. Okay. So that's just like pretty much a small piece. So I'm rinsing my brush off again to apply the beige color. So remember that was just white and brown. All right. I'm gonna put a little bit of yellow, just a little. Okay. And so just this whole area, and then we'll just add some shadows and some highlights and stuff to make it look a little bit more realistic. All right. So you can see it's starting to even blend with the color above it. Okay. And I want it to blend, I want them to all look smooth. Okay. Apply a little bit more of my red back into that. And then the beige goes up around the neck area and underneath the mouth. Okay, I think I ran out a little bit of my color, so I'm just gonna mix a little bit more again. So that was white, brown, and I used a little bit of yellow. Okay, all right, so I have my color again. So like I said, just along the neck. And then underneath the mouth area, just painting that in. And a little bit of the nose. So I'm just gonna do it on the inside, pretty much of the nose. The rest of it will pretty much be another color. Okay, so I'm just rinsing my brush off. So the same color that we basically used in the fins, we're gonna use on the top of the head. So we used blue, yellow, brown. Mix those together, blue, yellow, brown. And we had added a little bit of white. So just a little bit. Okay. And so that's mostly going on the head. Okay. So I think our turtle is coming together well. Okay, so this is where we're at so far. So we're gonna take this same green. I'm gonna add a little bit more blue into my mixture and a little bit of black just to darken it a bit. And we're gonna touch that back fin. Okay, so that area right there. You don't wanna neglect that. We care about his back feet. All right, so we have that there. So now we're gonna work the face. I think I'm gonna just stick with the same brush that I have, and that's because I can do detail work with this brush too because it's tip on the top. The tip on the top. All right, so with the face, we can put in the eyes, which is just taking the black and just filling in that area where the eye is. Okay. All right, so the area is filled in. And then we're also gonna take the black and just create the nostrils. All right. So now we're gonna take that same beige color that we made for all these different areas. And we made that with the white and the brown. But this time we're gonna add just a little teensy weensy bit of blue. Okay. I'm gonna create this line down the middle, reaching the nose. So down the middle, reaching the nose. Okay. And then we also have a few little lines on the side coming from the mouth area. And then we have this long line that reaches up to that middle line that we made first. And then there's one going the other way. Okay. And so I'm gonna make this beige go around the eyes just to give it a little bit more of a lid. All right. I'm also gonna do that to the next eye. I'm gonna just blend that a little bit more. Okay. So we're slowly getting there. I think I made this eye just a little tad too big, so I'm just gonna make it a bit smaller. Gonna widen the head of my turtle at the top. I had a little bit of green left over, so it's gonna make a small adjustment. Okay, so I'm gonna take my brown and that same brown and white mixture I made. I'm just gonna make it a little darker by just adding more brown. And in the nose area, I'm just gonna make lines going down. Okay, and I'll take some more white now. It's gonna make very light, I'm pressing very light lines going down. Okay, I'm taking that white again. And I'm just gonna make some lines going back and forth underneath the mouth. Okay, I'm gonna take my brown and do those same lines with the white and the brown. Okay. So the similar color that we used here, we're gonna use to shape the neck of the turtle. And that was the black and the red. So I'm having to make some more because mine dried out. So get that black and that red. And I'm just forming the shape of the neck. So I'm starting from the edge of the neck, and just kind of making a line that goes down, shaping the head, like similar shape of the head. I have another line coming down from this line, but it's about 1 inch and then about 1 inch in. Just gonna bring that in, go from this edge and bring that in. So now my shape, the shape of my turtle already has, its neck has a little bit more shape now. And so I'm gonna take some black and just darken some of those areas to add a little bit more shadow. Take some black underneath. I'm gonna do that over here too. I'm taking that same color and I'm just bringing it down now. Okay, so this is how we're looking. And I'm gonna take this same dark area and just kind of make this nice divide here from the shell and the neck. Okay, so I kind of watered that color down a bit, so just gonna take it, water down, just apply it just by the edge there. That should make it look a little bit more realistic. And I'm gonna take some black again. Okay, I'm just gonna put it underneath the part of the shell here too. And then I'm also taking it underneath the fin. Okay. I'm rinsing my brush off because I want to blend that a little bit better because I'm now painting red on dry, so. Okay, so I'm taking my black again. I realized I didn't partition or divide this part here. I'm just taking that black just to create more of a divide. Okay, so now I'm going to take some white and a little bit of yellow and then a little bit of blue. So it's gonna make like this really light green. Take some more white, more white. Okay, just gonna create some highlights underneath the belly of our turtle. Okay, so I think I want some more highlights on top of the head, seeing that, like I said, the light will be shining on our turtle. Okay. Okay, and so now I'm taking my white and brown and just creating some lines at the back of the fin. I'm pressing really, really lightly because it's going to look really, really faint. And that's only because it's far away. I don't want it to look as striking as the other lines. So just as subtle as that, like you could hardly see it, but it's there, it's there. Okay. I'm gonna just make this turtle eye much smaller because I just keep making this turtle eye big. I don't know why. Do I want it to have big eyes? It's a possibility. It's not gonna be perfect. Okay, so just gonna make it smaller again. All right, so I'm rinsing my brush off. I'm gonna take my tiny, tiny brush now and just gonna get a little bit of white. We're gonna add some white in the eye. All right, and that's it. Like you just add just a little bit of white in the eye. Like it actually makes a huge difference. So I'm gonna take the same tiny brush. I'm gonna get some black. We're gonna create the line for the turtle. And I'm starting about the edge of the green from where the green and the beige separate. I'm just gonna make a line going up around the nose area and down. Okay. All right. So that should be all for our turtle for now. So we'll come back to our turtle, but let's begin the water. So I'm just gonna take my large brush, or you can use your medium brush if you're more comfortable with using that. Just gonna take my blue. I'm not gonna mix it with anything. Now, if you do want your water underneath your turtle to be darker, you can just add a little bit more. I'll add a little bit of black, but I just want that blue. And I'm just gonna paint underneath the turtle this blue, and I'm gonna begin to go up, but as I go up, I'm gonna start adding white. I'm being very careful, and I'm going around the turtle. I don't wanna really put that blue too much on the turtle. Taking my time. So if you need to use a smaller brush to make these sharp lines around the turtle, you can do that. I just use the edge of the brush and I just take my time and follow the line. Most times with my canvas, I usually paint the sides, and I do that just so it'll look a little bit more complete if I don't frame it. Like if I just want to hang it on a wall without having to frame it, I just paint the sides. To me, it just always gives it a nice finished look. So since most of the sides will be blue, I'll just go up about here. Okay. Just need more blue. Like I say, I'm just taking my time, going around the turtle. So now that I've gone around the turtle, I just try to make smooth lines. So I'm gonna come back to the bottom of this just to darken some of those light blue areas that I want to be dark by just putting a second layer. Okay, so we're slowly getting there. So remember I said that I'm going to start to add some white as I go up. So I'm just going to blend, mix some white, and then blend those two colors together. So I'm not taking the blue off my brush because I'm going to be using it to make this lighter blue anyway. So I'm just going to take some white on my brush. Just going to mix those two together. It's going to make a nice light blue. Start to add that to the top part of the turtle, bringing it down to blend with the darker blue. Okay, and we're taking our time around the turtle. Painting the top. Okay, I'm just gonna mix a little bit more. Right, so I'm also, like I said, I'm painting the sides too. And the top. Okay. Just needed to get a better angle, so I'm just holding it. All right, so it's pretty light. I'm just gonna rinse some of that white off. And now I'm just gonna work with the blue and work my way up. Taking my time around the turtle. Okay. I'm getting a little bit of the scraps that I had from the white and the blue. Just blending all that in. A little bit more of that scrap. I'm just really trying not to mess up my turtle. So I'm just taking my time with that line. Okay. I mixed more of the color, just added more blue. So I'm just gonna take it down a little bit because I need a better angle. I'm just going back and forth, just blending the same way that I was doing. Now that I've made all those nice lines. My turtle. Let's see if I turn this way. Okay. I'll take some water. Just continue to blend. Okay. Alrighty. So I'm gonna take some of the dark blue on this side and just kind of blend this out a bit. Okay. So I'm gonna rinse my brush out. Using that same mixture with the blue and the white. I still have some of that there. I'm just gonna add more white. Rinse off my brush. I'm not gonna dry it off too much. Just gonna take a little bit of that color. I'm just gonna paint down now. So it'll look like the light rays are hitting the water. Okay. Some more water. Just going down. Doing that again. Okay, so I'm getting more water. I'm just actually, I just keep adding like more water to it. It's gonna add just a little bit of white. So I want this to be as fluid as possible. So now I'm taking the rays a little bit down onto the turtle's back. So I'll bring it closer for you to see what I did. Okay. All right. And so now we're just gonna tackle the bottom. And so I'm gonna use this brush here. Okay. And I'm mostly gonna use black and then I'm just gonna build on top of it. So you know what, instead I'm gonna use my large brush because it'll cover more of the surface area. Okay. I'm starting from the bottom and I'm working my way to the side. Adding water, just getting a little bit more loose. All right, so that's how it looks. So now I'm gonna take that other brush that I picked up first. And just with some blue, some yellow, and a little bit of white. I'm just gonna add some of those highlights on top of it. So I'm just dabbing, dabbing. And so this green is gonna begin to blend with the black. And that's what we want. Going around the thing. And that all blend. Just keep dabbing and dabbing, and then it's just blending with the black at the bottom. Bringing that all the way around. And then keep going down. Just keep on going. Just keep dabbing. And now you can see I'm bringing the black up into that green.
Hey, Christina, your video went off.
Oh, God, is it? Okay, I'm almost done. We're almost there.
Perfect.
Okay. All right. So just blending that some more. And so you can add highlights and the lights, you can add reds, you can add like more colors onto that if you'd like. But the last step that we'll do is we'll just take, I'm gonna use this brush here. And I'm gonna go dip into my water, dip into some white. And I just blend that water and that pigment in one area. And I'm just gonna make a motion that makes it feel like water. Just kind of wavy lines on top. Okay, so I'm gonna take some blue with the water again. I'm just gonna go by those wavy lines and just make more wavy lines. And so this will just make it look like the movement in the water. I'm gonna bring some of that down. And then I'm just gonna take my white again, water it down just a little bit this time, not too much. I'm just gonna put some little white highlights throughout that part. Okay. And I can even bring it down just a little bit. Okay. Fix that part right there. And then you'll have your turtle. Okay. So let's just remember to dispose of our waste properly when we're at the beaches, dispose of our waste when we're home, just making sure that we don't be very mindful of what we put in our trash cans. We be very mindful when we're diving, the type of fish and turtles that we make sure we do not sell, we make sure we do not eat, making yourself aware of different seasons for different sea life, just so that we can prolong their life and make sure that their habitats can stay healthy and clean. And thank you so much, NAGB, for letting me have this opportunity to paint turtle with the kids today.
It looks amazing, Christina. Thank you so much. You did an
You're
amazing.
welcome.
Thank you.
You're
All right,
welcome.
we'll sign
Bye.
up. Take
Yeah.
care. Bye.